Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about Kong Skull Island. We're going to be looking at the Beauty and the Beast movie for next week, and we're also going to be talking about all the remakes and reboots in Hollywood. There's even more of them. They just keep coming. My guest host for this week is Quinn Winchell.
Hello.
A professor at Chico State, our local college here. Quinn, what do you teach over there?
I teach a variety of classes, American cinema sometimes, media aesthetics, narrative script writing, across the gamut.
Yeah. Dude's got skills.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go ahead and start things off with headlines for this week. Number one headline that we're looking at, Beauty and the Beast, which is going to be opening next weekend, is starting to make a lot of news, and not just for what the movie is, because the reviews are coming out too, but the biggest news that's coming out is how much money it's going to make. Beauty and the Beast is set to have probably one of the biggest March openings of all time. They're talking about $120 million domestically, $200 million internationally. It's opening in China on the same day. So in almost, I think it's 2/3 of the world, it's opening on the exact same day. $200 million in one day.
So Disney is going to recoup their expenses.
Yes.
Instantly.
Well, and here's the thing, not by much. You'd think $200 million, you're going to make some money on that. They're going to make 10 million. If they make $200 million in one weekend, they've made $10 million on the movie.
Let me guess, cost of advertising?
The cost of advertising, $190 million movie. Most of that ends up being advertising because this movie is everywhere. It's on magazines. It's all over the internet. It's on IMDb. I can't get away from this damn movie.
Deservedly so. I mean, what do you
Deservedly so. It is, and this is the thing that I'm wondering, because when I first heard about this movie coming out, I thought, oh, that's cute. That'll be fun. It'll be like Cinderella or one of the other ones. Apparently, though, this one's on a whole other level, because none of the other Disney live-action movies opened at $100 million, let alone $120 million.
Okay.
So for it to have that kind of an opening is kind of a big deal. This would be the biggest live-action Disney opening of anything that didn't have the Marvel label on it. So this is a big deal.
But this common trend that's going along about remaking all of these cartoons and even remaking live action ones, like Pete's Dragon was like a 1977 classic.
Yeah.
What's the appeal? Why are they making these, what I kind of feel is like pointless reboots? Exactly.
And apparently a lot of them are like shot for shot from the animated one. Like they've changed nothing. They've just swapped out real people for drawings and charged more money to see it, and people are paying it.
I mean, that's common syndrome with Disney. If you look at a lot of early films, kind of like Robin Hood or The Aristocats or any of those, or The Jungle Book, if you kind of do there's a nice video out there on YouTube, check it out, people. There's like a shot-by-shot comparison that shows like the similar dance moves, similar styles, backgrounds. They just change the characters.
All three of the ones you mentioned all have the actor Phil Harris in them as well. The voice of Little John, the voice of O'Malley, and
Baloo.
And Baloo. All Phil Harris.
Very nice.
So, yeah. They go to the same well a lot, that Disney, and they seem to be good at it because they have all the money. It's all theirs. All right, next up on the big news coming out. This is an interesting one. This goes back to that reboot thing I mentioned. They're talking about rebooting The Fly. Now, a lot of the time on this show, you've heard me talk about reboots and remakes, and I've said, please don't do that. You're going to ruin it. We don't need another reboot. I'm actually thinking this one might be okay, and here's why. The last Fly movie, the original Fly movie with Jeff Goldblum, and that's not the original, by the way. There was actually a really old one, but this is the one that I know of, the Cronenberg Fly, came out in 1986. That's over 30 years ago. It's 31 years ago. That's an appropriate level of time because that's a whole generation. So you could say a whole generation saw that movie, have now grown up, have kids, and it's time for the next generation to see that kind of like creepy horror type movie. I think that's an appropriate amount of time, and I'm going to go ahead, as much as my blessing carries weight in Hollywood, I'm going to give it my blessing for them to remake The Fly. I think it's okay.
Oh, your opinion carries a lot of weight.
Huge, yeah, no.
But what I feel about this, and I'm a steadfast conservative when it comes to originals, but, even I kind of I kind of bend my own rules because, I love The Thing, the 1982 version. Mm-hmm. That is a remake of a 1950s film, Howard Hawks film, The Thing, from Another Planet.
A 30-year gap, I believe.
So that's the kind of common trend we're seeing.
Yeah.
So basically, and I was kind of thinking about this, once we get into kind of Kong and Skull Island and how, the monsters keep multiplying every time he fights them, in the year 2037, are we going to have yet another reboot of all of these franchises? So it's this 30-year gap that it's a very interesting market strategy, I think. So.
And personally, I find 30 years totally acceptable. If you're waiting 30 years in between reboots and remakes,
look at Ghostbusters.
I'm not going to give you too much shit. Yeah, I didn't have too much bad to say about the Ghostbusters. At least they tried. At least they were out there trying to do something. Now, if you're Spider-Man and you're waiting 6 years in between reboots, that's not enough time, man. I have a Spider-Man already. Like, give me a minute. Let him be dead for a while. But yeah, so anyway, going right from that story of remakes into the next one, Warner Brothers wants to make more Matrix movies.
Are they making more?
They're making more. They're making more, and it might be a reboot, is what they're saying.
Okay.
Might be a reboot. There is some talk of it being sequels, but I would think they learned their lesson by now. America saw the sequels, hated the sequels. Only the hardcore Matrix fans really liked them. And I mean, other than that, plus they got really confusing, even if you were a big fan. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm thinking they're going to go in the reboot direction. And again, this is a situation where those movies are 12 years old, 14 years old maybe if you count 2017. So yeah, so they're not that old. We haven't had a whole generation come and go in between. This is the case. These two movies right here are the case of good idea for a reboot or remake, bad idea for a reboot remake. The Matrix it's too soon. It's too soon. You got to give it some time. Are you ready for more Matrix movies?
I don't think I was ready for the second one. Reloaded was horrible. I mean, Monica Bellucci was really the only saving grace, and even she dragged that movie down a little bit. But it's just, once again, this needless facilitation of, it's money. It's a money game. It's a money game. But I also, don't think, personally, I don't think, the Michael B. Jordan casting is really not so much appropriate. I don't think
for
it's
later.
Right.
We were going to save that.
Oh, okay.
We were going to save that. So that we'll talk about that later.
Sorry, I'm going off script, people.
That Matrix movie might cast Michael B. Jordan. It might come up again later. So if you're taking notes, write that down.
But sorry,
that's okay.
Mess up your flow. But it's just it feels at this point in time it is too soon. I mean, personally, as a fan of Ghostbusters, the original, I thought it was too soon, as in it never should have happened. But that's my opinion, and opinions are varying, and I'm sure that there might deep down be some validity to remakes, and I'm not opposed to some remakes. I'm not going to say that, but it's just I feel there's like a time and a place, and then there's just no time and no place. So like something like if you wanted to remake E.T., like why could you remake that? Would you ever want to try to remake Star Wars? It's like,
well, no, you would just make more sequels.
Exactly.
So,
like Indiana Jones, would you try and remake that? No, you just...
I mean, they have said, though, that if once Harrison Ford dies, they might recast it and start over and over again.
Ooh. Those are dark days.
They're not going to do it, though, until which is like, that's got to be the most morose, grim, like, hey, fans, cross your fingers. If Harrison Ford dies, we might get new Indiana Jones movies. And
more Shia LaBeouf.
And meanwhile, he gets in another plane crash, and it's like, and Lucas is like, damn it, missed again. So it's, yeah.
Now, Howard the Duck remake.
Oh,
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
And the funny thing is, that one actually has a shot because he showed up at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was like, holy crap, suddenly there is a cinematic version of Howard the Duck again. I didn't even know we needed the first one, but now we have two of them. So, all right. Moving on now to the review for this week. Quinn and I both watched Kong Skull Island. Mm-hmm. This was, for me, I was surprised. I went into this movie thinking, it's another monster movie. It's another rah, scary beat 'em up, special effects extravaganza. And while it is that, it's also
Very
more.
much so.
And it's a different version of that than I think I've ever seen. There was multiple points in this movie where you think you know where a movie's going to go. They'll use the sound and they'll use the soundtrack to kind of like guide you, like, oh, it's a tense moment, something's happening. And then out of nowhere, this movie, though, just kept making surprising choices. Several of the deaths of the movie, which there was lots of them. I didn't expect so many. I think it did a good job of that, of killing people that you wouldn't necessarily expect to get killed. And then also killing them in a way that I didn't see coming. It just, like, out of the blue, that got dead. And it just happened, and it happened over and over again, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
How much of this can we spoil? Do we want to keep it?
It comes out a week after the movie comes out, so spoil away.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking at this point, talking about your characters, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I found the film to be kind of, the one thing when you go into this film, don't analyze the crap out of it. Just don't. And I do that. You kind of do yourself a disservice, because at that point, these are the movies that I watched when I was younger. I've watched, the Rodin films, the Gamera films, all of those films, and they are this is what it wants to be. And initially, for a conversation later on, it will become something so much more. But I felt that at times, we've seen it before. Definitely seen it with the 2005 version of Kong, with the giant insects. It's because it is a soft reboot, once again. It's like you're kind of revitalizing the franchise. You have to add those familiar spots for audiences. So, of course I'm expecting to see a giant spider, or, the oxen was a really nice approach. It gave it a very
but the giant spider, I didn't even realize it was a giant spider. And in the same way the character's wondering, I don't think it's a giant spider, because the giant spider's legs look like bamboo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, that's weird that damn bamboo just went right through that guy's face. And
it was a vicious kill. It was a vicious kill.
Even when I think about it, I've never seen a spider just be like,
impale
and it's like stab somebody through the face with its leg.
So yeah, we'll give it merit for some creativity with that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's that's a very familiar premise. John Goodman, which I love. I absolutely love John Goodman. He was great in this, but he dupes people into going to this mysterious island under false pretenses, of course. There is the female component, the sympathetic woman character.
What I loved about that, though?
What's up?
They didn't push it too far.
They didn't.
They didn't make it romantic.
Yes.
Which is what a lot of these King Kong movies do, is they're like, oh, there's a woman in Kong. Oh, beauty hath soothed the savage. And in this one, they were like, all right, we're not going to screw with that, because really that's just giant bestiality, and that's weird.
But there's that racial overtone to it, too. That it's
okay.
I've always seen that from, a white woman falling or just being kind of entranced with this, the mythical black creature from the jungle. There are so many ways to interpret that, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't pull that. There's actually that scene when Kong rises up, they're on that plateau, and she's holding hands with Hiddleston, and Kong kind of looks at him like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. You two are a thing. Okay, I'll back off.
You're into white dudes, I get it.
I'll back off.
Yeah.
But there were similarities, but at the same time, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. And I have to thank you for, bringing me onto the show, because it's gotten me into kind of watching movies again that I've kind of strayed away from. And there's a lot of pleasure in seeing these films. I wouldn't call them a guilty pleasure. I just say, it's just fun popcorn entertainment.
Exactly.
You should, but if we wanted to analyze it, we could.
We could, and it's not going to hold up very well. Yeah. Just on the verbiage of you keep calling it a film, and in my mind, Kong Skull Island is a movie. It is you can call it a flick if you wanted to. I don't think anybody involved with it talked about it as, well, when I was working on the film
Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, it's to me, when you say film, you're talking about something that was meant to be an artistic work,
to stand the test of time.
This was never meant to be an artistic work. This was meant to be fun. This was meant to be exciting,
franchise worthy.
It's franchise worthy, which it absolutely is. So yeah, and I think that's, when you look at films or movies, that's something to always look at, is what was it trying to be? Because you can't get mad at it and say, oh, it's not a good film, when it was never trying to be a good film. It was trying to be, and honestly, if it was a good film, I think you'd have a lot of angry fans of it's like, they spent 30 minutes just talking about the ennui of Kong. Who cares?
Proof that you can never satisfy film and cinema goers completely. There's always going to be one.
Yeah, no,
or it's 1 million.
There you go. But yeah, no. Overall, I think Kong Skull Island better than I thought. It's still a fun monster movie, and it's you know, it's not going to win any Oscars, but it's definitely a fun thing to go watch. So if you got some free time this weekend, check out Kong Skull Island. Out of 10, what would you probably give it?
10, I'd give it about like a 7.5, maybe 7.7. Give it a C+.
That's a little bit higher than I went. I was going to go about 6.5 to 7.
Okay.
Like 6.7. Yeah, it's not over the curb of being like a solidly good movie. But it's just right there. It's hanging right there of like, wow, this was almost a decently good movie. But it's still a lot of silly running around the jungle getting chased by animals and stuff. Other thing that we want to talk about though with Skull Island is that it's now, we're hearing that Kong Skull Island is now the second part in a new movie universe. This seems to be a very popular thing we're seeing more and more of all the time lately. I wanted to kind of go over a brief list of the movie universes that are out there. Maybe you at home haven't been keeping track of how many there actually are now. It might be more than you think. Plus, there's also some new ones on the horizon. So, number one, the one that kind of started the modern trend, Marvel. Marvel came out with Iron Man and then Incredible Hulk, and then we found out, I believe after Iron Man, that they were aiming towards the Avengers. They also started the practice of the Stinger, the post-credit scene that has now become a thing. That I missed the one in Kong. I didn't think there would be one, but apparently that's just a thing now. You can't leave at the end of the movie. You have to sit through the credits of everything now.
Was there one in Rogue One?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's becoming more and more of a common practice to do that. So Marvel is, of course, the kind of the first and leading the charge right now. They're doing it not just in film, but also in television, which is really hard. But they're still kind of managing to make that work. They don't cross over as much as I think fans want, but they still are crossing over. The other one, of course, the people that are trying to do it and struggling a little bit is DC Comics and Warner Brothers. They've been, according to them, this started with Man of Steel, and then since then they have been in the same continuous universe. So far we've had 3 movies in that universe, and all 3 of them have been met with bleak reviews. Not great.
It's been very kind, Ben.
It's been rough. On the plus side, trailer for Wonder Woman looks amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be the one that breaks the spell. Justice League also looks fun. Keyword being fun. They might actually start making these movies fun. All right. After that, the newest one, the newest created shared universe on the block, because this one's actually going to be starting this year, is the Universal Monster movies. This is actually, I think this is a brilliant idea because they did this years ago in the 50s and the 60s where they would do all the Universal monsters, Wolfman, the Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula,
The Invisible Man,
Creature from the Black Lagoon, and they would all, and then they'd bring in Abbott and Costello. And,
exactly.
And so they're bringing back all of these, and they're creating a new modern shared universe out of these. It's actually starting this year with The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe. Yeah, Quinn's making a face because we've seen the trailer for this already, and it looks bad.
It's hot garbage. It really, really is.
It's just terrible. It reminds me a lot of XMen Apocalypse when we saw the trailers for that, and you could just see that it's like, so this is just a whole special effects budget that you're just like showing off, and that's all they got. And that seems to be what this movie
You got
is.
the guy from Star Wars now, so okay, that's
there you
good.
go.
That's good.
But Tom Cruise is in it. He's going to be playing some thing that is related to the Mummy. Russell Crowe, we're being told, is going to be playing Dr. Jekyll, who will then become Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in later versions of the universe. So best of luck to Universal, but it's not looking good so far. The next universe I want to talk about is the one that actually is being created with Kong. Now that we have 2 movies, we have a shared universe. Apparently, the Godzilla movie that came out a couple years back with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Taylor Johnson, is now linked to this Kong movie, and now we know the 3rd movie is going to be called Godzilla, King of Monsters. That's going to be coming out in 2019. Basically, we're going to be seeing Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, Kong,
King Ghidra.
that one. All of these things are going to be fighting each other in the streets of New York and Tokyo and all these other great places.
Do you find the timeline messed up at all in this?
A little bit, yeah.
Why did they have to? Okay,
because the newest Godzilla movie, I believe, is taking place in modern time.
Yeah, it's 2014 for that. But then
Kong Skull Island took place in the 70s.
So I don't see why you have to have a 40+ year gap. And we're establishing Monarch, we're establishing that secret underground.
But there was also nothing in Kong that had to be in the 70s.
It's
like
true.
If you take out the first 10 minutes of the movie, I don't know it's in the 70s.
That's true. That's true. Unless you hear the soundtrack and you're like, this is distinctly 1973. But it's
wow, they really went nuts with that soundtrack too. Just like
the
every song you've ever heard from every Vietnam movie that you've ever liked.
If you've watched Born on the 4th of July, if you've watched Platoon, and if you've watched Apocalypse
if you watched
Now,
Forrest Gump, I mean, it's all of that music.
Every single song.
The best songs from all those soundtracks all showed up in Kong Skull Island.
i.e. the same 4 songs.
Yeah.
So, but there is a great shout out to Black Sabbath and Paranoid at the first confrontation with Kong.
Yeah.
That was the sound design in that is amazing. There
fun.
really was a point where it's like, wow, I'm actually impressed with this. But back to the timeline, it seems very kind of arbitrary or just even unnecessary to have such a long time gap with this. This could have taken place maybe even 2 years before the Godzilla event.
Yeah.
Even during the Godzilla event.
Yeah.
Because at that point you have a plausible kind of
reason
matchup.
for going to go find the thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing. John Goodman could have said, hey, remember that Godzilla thing? What if there's more of them? I got to go to this island. And that solves your plot problem right there. So anyway, moving on though with the other movie universes out there. And there's a couple more that I'm not mentioning. I'm only mentioning the biggest ones. The other one, Alien versus Predator. Okay. A couple years back, we've established that the Alien movies and the Predator movies are all taking place in the same universe. Aliens and Predator do exist at the same time. And we've had 2 movies with crossover. One decent and one complete waste of time. And when I say decent, I'm being generous. I'm basically giving you decent because at the end of that, you gave me a Pred Alien, and that was pretty freaking cool.
I gotta say, I did like the second one.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It
fun.
Felt, it was a nice slasher monster movie mix-up. It felt like the first Alien a little bit. I'm not still giving it a little bit too much credit, but there was still some...
A lot of the same elements, yeah. And going back to actually this is the second oldest movie universe out there. A lot of people forget about this one. Kevin Smith actually created a movie universe in the 90s with Clerks, Dogma, Mallrats, Chasing Amy. All of those movies had the same 2 characters that traveled from movie to movie in them, Jay and Silent Bob. That's the View Askew universe is what it's called. Those are all View Askew films. And I mean, he kind of was doing it before everybody else, and I think we can actually attribute the fact that Kevin Smith is a big comic book guy to the fact that he saw the potential in that. Of what if I made movies that instead of just like, oh, my fans will watch my movies, I will make sure my fans watch my movies because I will take my fans to, I will give them a piece of what they want in every single one of my movies by having these 2 characters that they love travel with them. So
they are his X-Men. They are his ensemble cast.
Yep.
I mean.
Yep. The other, the rumored one out there that's been getting talked about for a while and they haven't pulled the trigger yet. Hasbro has been talking about a universe with G.I.
the
Joe
barrel, people.
and Transformers. And if those 2 weren't cool enough, Micronauts.
No way.
Yeah, Micronauts and Mask. We were digging into some like straight up late 80s cartoons right here.
Big Bad Beetleborgs on the way?
No. Gosh, I hate that show. Now, the universe that I want, though, the one that, and I've talked about this on the show before, I would love to see the Wheel of Time because it become its own shared universe. There's enough stories, there's enough content out there that this could actually really, really happen. There's 14 different books, and if they took some of the side storylines and made them separate projects, you could definitely do it. All right, next up, Suck Not Suck. All right, number 1, Man of Steel 2 is looking at Matthew Vaughn to direct.
Matthew Vaughn, not suck.
Suck.
Man of Steel 2, big suck.
But if he's in charge of it,
yeah. But it's kind of that. It's like how much is he going to be in charge of? What are the producers going to be doing in this? I mean, what are the higher ups going to be doing? I mean, they've kind of blew it out of the gate with the last 2 films. So, or we're coming.
But see,
up on
this
3.
is my thing though. Of like when they get away from Zack Snyder, I think the whole system gets better. It's it's like
there's truth in that. There's truth in
Yeah.
that. We've all seen Sucker Punch. Well, some of us have seen Sucker Punch. So.
I've seen about half a Sucker Punch before I walked up and
That's
did other
half
things.
too many.
Yeah,
You're
no,
lucky.
but no, I think DC has kind of figured it out. They've looked at what Marvel has done, and that Marvel didn't give all of their movies to one guy, and they actually let different directors, talented directors, helm the projects, still within the world of Marvel or DC, whichever you're doing. I think this could be a great idea, and I'm going to say not suck. If Matthew Vaughn's attached, not suck. I want to see Man of Steel 2. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo sequel is finally happening, but they've thrown out David Fincher. He's not going to direct it. It's now Fede Rodriguez, or I can't remember his last name.
Alvarez.
Fede Alvarez, thank you. Fede Alvarez, and he was started with an A. And they've thrown out the cast. So no Rooney Mara, no Daniel Craig, none of them. They're all gone, and we're going to recast the whole thing.
It's risky. I'd say that's really risky. I'm going to give a tentative suck on this one.
Okay. I'm actually going to go the other way. I saw Don't Breathe. I saw the other thing that he did.
Remake of The Evil Dead,
of The Evil Dead, which was solid. So he's got a chance. I'm going to give him a tentative not suck. Next up, Matrix. The Matrix reboot, like we mentioned before, looking at Michael B. Jordan. Now, we both earlier said boo to a Matrix reboot, but what if they had Michael B. Jordan?
I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of Chronicle.
He's so hot right now. It's like Hansel. No. I mean, coming off Creed, he's got a lot of name recognition.
Creed, I'll give it to him for that. But beyond that, what's it? Chronicle, Fruitvale Station. He's got some drama chops, but I don't know. It's once again going back to that Chronicle thing. I really do not see him in that role. Nor do I want to see him in that role.
Gotcha.
I mean, what would you feel if they gave that to a woman?
I'd be fine with that.
Who would you pick? I guess just...
Off the top of my head, knowing The Matrix now works, Tilda Swinton. Although, wasn't she already in one of the first ones?
I don't remember.
She might have been.
You might be just thinking about those dreaded...
No, the Dreadlock Ghost kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Tilda.
She feels like she's already living in that world. So I think that would be like... I'm pretty sure she came out of The Matrix anyway. And so I think she'd be a perfect fit for that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say suck on that one too.
Okay.
Number 4, Ridley Scott, God bless him, wants to make Gladiator 2 with Russell Crowe. And before you're thinking, wait, Russell Crowe died in Gladiator 1.
Oh no, people.
Don't worry, he's got a plan for that. He's got it all worked out. He's going to bring him back from the dead, and it's going to totally be cool.
He made Blade Runner, people. I mean, we can't really argue with the man.
I will. That's going to suck. That's a dumb idea. That's going to suck. Am I not entertained? No, I am not. That's a dumb idea. Don't do that. Don't remake. Don't do Gladiator 2 Electric Boogaloo. Don't do that.
Oh.
All right.
Shabadoo reference. Going deep.
All right. That is the show for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about the show or issues with the show, or if you'd like to be a co-host like Quinn was this week, you can email us at bigbms@zoho.com. If you want to hear more of what I have to say, I've got a podcast. It's called Die Hard on a Blank. Every week we look at major action movies out there, and we analyze them to see if they fit the Die Hard mold. Quinn, anything you want to plug?
I mean, I could do self-plug for my website, quinwinchell.com, independent videographer, but that's pretty much it.
I mean, you could, but you didn't, and I think that's very classy of you. So, all right, that's the show for this week. Check back next week. We're going to be looking at Beauty and the Beast with my co-host for the first time. She's going to co-host the whole show, not just one little bit. I'm going to have her for the whole show. Cassie, the kid correspondent, is back.
It's going to be
but
awesome.
For the whole show, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be weird. But good night, everybody.
Have a good night.